Okay, now this is the key thing that you have to. You have the triangle. These three things have to really be present for infection to be transmitted from one person to another. If you take the agent away, then there's no infection. If you take the host away, somebody who is not susceptible, who cannot be easily infected, no infection. If you take the environment away, wherein the host lives, and the host can be transmitted through the port of exit and port of entry, then infection cannot. But this is the perfect picture for infection to take place. The agent, somebody is exposed to the agent and become infected. That person is now the host. Within that host, most of the time, the pathogen lives in a conducive environment. Say, for instance, with the coronavirus, they live within the nostrils, the mouth. That's why when they were trying to test for the availability of the coronavirus, they do those put things in your nose to see if the virus is there. That's the host. That's the environment. And when that person speaks, droplets are being released. And if somebody is around who is susceptible, that person becomes the new host. And that person can pass on. The person who becomes the new host, he will or she will take that virus through her mouth if she is not wearing the mask or he is not wearing the mask, or through her nostrils. So that's why we wear those things. It's not because you want to, it's a fashion. No, it's not. It's as life-saving activity or protective gear that all of us at this time, until we know our situation, vaccinated or not vaccinated, when you are in the community, you make sure you have your mask on. Here is the transmission occurs in either direct or indirect manner, and the pathogenic agent enters a susceptible host through a portal of entry. See, the mouth here can play two ways. It can play as the portal of exit, get out of our mouth as we talk, as we sing, as we speak aloud, as we cheer. Then it looks for somebody's mouth who is susceptible. Get into that mouth or get into those nostrils of that person. So as we breathe in, it's airborne. Most of the time it gets into our nostrils. So you see, get out from one person's mouth, gets into another person's mouth or nostrils, and that person becomes infected. Disease is established. So if you look at the chain here, the only way you can break the chain is wearing a mask. the right type of mask and wearing it properly. You see, because most of the time, even when at one time when I used to teach human sexuality, students will say, "Oh, well, I wore the condom, but I was not, but I became infected." Yes, if you don't wear it properly, you don't wear it the right time, because as with any preventive measures, you don't use it the right way as it is prescribed, you are wasting your time and the other person's time. Not only wasting your time, but you are exposing yourself to be infected. So it's good that when you use protective means, use them the right way so that you either don't create that situation wherein you the portal of exit as with it's with say men with ST sexually transmitted infections. You become the host when you are infected with an STD. Through sexual encounters, the penis becomes the portal of exit. So semen comes out of it. If you have any sexual relation with a woman, you ejaculate. Now, the vagina becomes the portal of entry. Infection will be established. So the genitalia, from one genitalia to the other genitalia, infection can be established. That's why when it comes to those kind of things, you have to try to know the sexual history of your partner. Or your partner has to be honest with you. If not, he or she might share with you something that you were really not looking for in the relationship. Unfortunately, things like this happen a lot of the time. So be careful. So please try to understand this, because this diagram, one way or the other, will show up down the road. The chain of infection. So the pathogen disease causing agent, which is the virus, could be a virus, could be a bacterium, could be a protozoa, and it could be. So the reservoir is a favorable environment for infectious agent to live and grow. See, most of the time, human beings become reservoirs. And certain part of our body, because of the humidity, because of the warmth and this, they can grow. Those agents can grow. And all they're doing is waiting for them through the portal of exit, the part by which that agent leaves the host and being transmitted to somebody else who is susceptible to the disease. Transmission is how pathogens are passed from reservoir to next host. The transmission. So because all we are doing, especially in public health, once we know what is the agent, and we know the modes of transmission, our biggest focus is avoid the transmission. Because once you avoid the transmission, you are breaking the chain. But if we don't break that chain, transmission will continue. And it's passed on from Mary to Jane to this, that, to it goes on, or from. So most of the time it's very, very important that we avoid the transmission. If you know that you have an STI, sexually transmitted infections, first of all, inform your partner and do whatever you can to make sure that you don't infect your partner. If you're going to engage in any sexual activities, make sure you know how to use the condom. At least it reduces your chances of infecting that other partner. It's not 100%, because again, so many things can happen with the condom. It can break, not properly worn, or worn the wrong time. And it doesn't take much for infection to occur. It only takes a little tiny bit of fluid that is infected, that is coming from the infected person, from the host, to the new host, creating a new host when they become infected. Then you have the portal of entry, where agent enters susceptible, people who are vulnerable, host. Then you have new host. This susceptible to new infection begin being established. Say, okay, if let's say Jack is a host, which means Jack has a pathogen or agent, let's say gonorrhea, and Jack fails to inform his girlfriend that he has the gonococci, gonorrhea, engages in an unprotected sex with Josephine. Josephine loves Zach, does not even bother to ask about his sexual history. Then through that sexual encounter, Josephine will become infected. If during the sexual encounter, Zach ejaculates into Josephine, and that can lead to the pathogen now being transferred into Josephine's body. Now Josephine becomes a host. Jack is still a host. He will always be a host until treated. But now he has created a new host. And if Josephine does not exhibit the same reckless behavior as Jack, she can pass this on to somebody else. So you see how transmission occurs from one person to another. So my advice to my students always is you be the one that is going to break it. You be the one that is going to stop it. You be the one that is going to ask some pertinent questions. And as I always tell people, use your sixth sense. If you are not sure, don't do it. Don't do it, because you can have some regrets down the road. Okay, chain of infection. The zoonosis, these are diseases that reside in human population. It occurs in animal populations. They are, the zoonosis zoo, animal, think of the word zoo. This is animal. Zoonosis, these are diseases for which the reservoir resides in animal populations. And we've seen a lot of new, like things like even the HIV or some of these other diseases that are just coming into the surface, like rabies. So these are all at one time residing in animals. People go there, either eat those animals without cooking them properly, or being bitten by those animals. Those infections get into the human population. So that's why we have to be very, very careful. Those people with dogs, you are told, okay, your dog has to be given some vaccination against rabies, or even other cats, because they have the ability to pass on those diseases. Especially these days, wherein we've become so close to animals. But some people think they are almost our relatives, and which, that's for another discussion. Animals should be left alone. Or if we're going to be very close, we have to make sure that we take care of ourselves so that we do not bring whatever should have been within the animal population, bring them into the human population. Because things like Ebola, again, people have some stories. Same with HIV, with monkeys and with bats, and so there are certain things that we just have to be very, very careful when dealing with animals, because they carry certain diseases, certain agents, certain pathogens, and for them it's okay in most cases. But when it enters the human population, it's very, very destructive. And in some cases, with rabies, some dogs will exhibit when they have those tendencies. There are times like they go mad. And you have to make sure right away that you stay away from them, call the animal control, and they will handle the situation. Then the anthropoonosis. These are diseases for which humans are the only known reservoirs. Say like cold, the common cold. Most of the time it lives within human beings, and they can transfer some of those things. And you have some of these STDs. Those things live within the human being, and they can transfer some of those things. So have to be very, very careful. The mode of transmission, how things are passed on, it's like a relay. If you've seen a relay, how somebody runs with a baton and gives it to the next person. Person takes it, run, give it to the next person. And before long, a disease that could have started somewhere and you had a stranger in your town that engage in certain behaviors that expose vulnerable or susceptible individuals, they become infected. He's gone. But now there is a new host. The new host will pass it on to another new host because whenever there is a transmission, a new host is created. So whenever there is transmission, now it's a new host. That new host now is looking, I hate to put it this way, is now looking to create another new host. Unless the whole triangle is broken or the chain is cut. If you don't cut the chain or you don't break that triangle, transmissions will continue. That's why most of the time it's good for people to really go get tested. You are in a relationship with somebody you don't know their history. Maybe before you start getting so much involved, maybe it's good for it might create some pressure or some issue of trust. But most of the time in today's world, it's better you really prevent because curing things most of the time are not as easy as they appear. Okay, you have direct transmission. Immediate transfer of disease agent between infected and susceptible individual. Immediate, direct. So like now, you touch, biting, as I said about things like rabies. If you're bitten by a dog who has rabies, or that skunk, or some of those animals that or dog, because certain dogs can also have rabies if they are not being vaccinated. That is a direct transfer from the host to a new host if the person is susceptible. Kissing. Again, that's also another way. Because most of the time, some of these diseases exist in a moist environment, conducive environment. Sexual intercourse. Again, these are all direct transmissions. Somebody with HIV engages in an unprotected sex with somebody else, they can enter their bloodstream and become infected. Same thing regardless of you're talking about heterosexual, male, female, or male, male. There's always a port of exit and a port of entry. When there is a little break within the walls of either the vagina or the walls of the anus, when that skin breaks or the wall, the membrane breaks, the disease HIV enters the bloodstream and a new host is created. So people have to take the necessary precautions to avoid infections. indirect transmission. So you have the direct, like the baton. Hold the baton, you pass it to the next person. You are infected, you touch something, you pass that infection that you have, or you've been bearing, kissing, all this. For the indirect, usually is you have to, it's transmission involving an intermediate step. There has to be a go-between. See, you think of airborne. See, when you think of airborne, it's the indirect transmission involving an intermediate step or a go-between. So here you're talking about say the when you talk of the virus, with the virus that is transmitted through airborne, like the COVID-19 is airborne. If the person, the host has it, when they speak, they expel. Most of the time when we speak, there are certain organisms, or especially if you are infected, you have some tiny spits that we give out. In fact, some people usually say, "Oh, when you talk to me too close, you spit out, you spit." Depending on some people, it's much more obvious. Or in some cases, like the virus, it's airborne, so you don't see it, but it's within the air. It's just like when you sneeze, you see a mixture of mucus and mucus and whatever infection that might be within the host. And if there is a susceptible person close by, through that airborne, the COVID or the cold or whatever is being transmitted. You see, as we say, the mode of transmission, most of the time, just like with human beings, we all have different modes of transmission. Some people like to fly. Some people like to drive. Some people like to just go on voyage, like to take this cruise. Most of the time, it's same certain organisms prefer certain modes of transmission. So you have this airborne, you have the vehicle-borne, vector-borne, then you have biological vehicle. Now, these are non-living object by which agents are transferred to successful host. See, all these born, these are the virus uses the air to be transmitted to somebody else. See, these are all non-living objects by which the agent is transferred to a successful host. Now you see the agent. Let's say here, the agent here is the cold virus. The cold virus leaves the reservoir, more or less leaves the throat of the infected person. See, just listen, the agent, which is the cold virus or the pathogen, leaves the reservoir, leaves the person who is infected, the host. The host of that person leaves the throat, because most of the time the virus lives around the throat, so the throat of the infected person. When the host sneezes, see, when that person sneezes, then the nose becomes the portal of exit. The nose and the mouth become the portal of exit. And that is direct transmission. Saliva droplets enters the respiratory tracts of susceptible host at close range. The portal of entry is the mouth, and new infection possibly established. You see, but as with any of this, if one link is missing, chain is broken. See, even right now, there is the saying that the flu this year is less as compared to other periods, simply because more people are wearing masks. So the portal of entry is shut down. So there is no portal of entry. And people are doing some preventive means, staying not too close to each other, washing of hands. See, these are all things that that you need to know. And again, as you continue to study this, please take time to study this particular area, because I will be more concerned to ask questions for the exams dealing with communicable and non-communicable diseases. I say, because once we know those things, we can be people who can influence or help our communities as to how best we can slow down the communication or the transmission of diseases. Or if nothing else, you as a student will know what you need to do to prevent yourself from being the new host or the host that transfers disease to others. Okay, non-communicable diseases. According to the national statistics, the leading cause of death are caused by non-communicable diseases. People cannot transfer heart attack or heart disease to somebody else. Nobody can transfer stroke, nor can they transfer cancer. Those are things that builds within time, within the body. Those are conditions that develop within time. That's why they are called chronic. They take some time to develop. And if not taken care of at the right time, can lead to death. Yes, there has been a lot of advances today in trying to treat heart diseases, stroke, as well as cancer. This can prolong life. But you have to play your part. You have to, first of all, know family history. Who is within my family that has had health issues pertaining heart problems, hypertension, and know the risk factors. What do I need to do so that I do not become infected? I do not become infected by heart problems. I do not become somebody suffering from heart diseases. Same thing with stroke. How is your cholesterol level? Good and bad cholesterol. How do you manage? How is your circulatory going on? Because at times there could be a cholesterol buildup that makes it very difficult for your body to transfer blood to the various parts of the body. And at times when that becomes an issue in your brain, a stroke becomes the outcome. But again, with good exercise, good diet, some of this could be prevented. It's not because, oh, my dad died of heart disease, therefore I can. Not necessarily. You can prolong it. As I always tell my students, it won't be long we start hearing about hurricanes. Hurricanes do not start in America. They start way, way back there in Africa. They walk their way to America, to the shores of America. If you live close to the sea, the source, you'd make the necessary preparation. You bought your house or you build your house strong so that when the hurricane comes, they can withstand it. Those who do that, yeah, maybe they might have to do some repair here and there, but it will not be a total loss. When we say family history, there are certain things that runs in the family. The more you know about it, the more you try to prevent it, the better it is for you. If at all you are succumb to it, you know what to do to be able to address it. But if you just sit there and just say, I take my chances, well, it might just take you out. Something that, because again, medicine has advanced. Even though they are still the leading causes of death, but you can buy yourself some time. And you can do those things that, something, you'll die of something else other than any of this. So it's be informed. Don't be afraid of knowledge. There are a lot of good books there. Centers of Disease Control has a lot of information. Go to the minority website, minority health website. Look at those conditions, those chronic conditions that really affect minority populations the most. And see your family tree, family history. Because even though at times we enjoy inheriting all the good stuff from our parents, There are certain things that we inherit that we wish we didn't. But unfortunately, that's the luck of the draw. Do the best you can with that information so that you don't have that situation. And some of this, when you talk of these leading causes, they are complex. The causes are deep. It can be family history. It can be your diet. It can be your environment. It can be obesity. It can be diabetes. So that's why most of the time, the when somebody has either heart disease, stroke, or cancer, there are so many factors. It's not just one thing. It could be a cause of so many other things. Okay, the multi-concession disease model. You have the host, inalterable, unique genetic endowment, which could be one of those, your personality, your beliefs, behavioral choice, impact on host, because all of this, what do you eat? What are your beliefs, your personality? Are you somebody who's always tense? Is it in the family? See, because all those also can expose you to the situation. Then the complex environment exposes host to risk factors. Okay, I stop here for today and we will continue with the rest. But as I said, I really want you to spend time to study these communicable and non-communicable diseases. How are they communicated? How do one infected person infect another person? And what can you do to stop this? Because again, the science is there. Just do your best to not be a victim.